Erie Boulevard and State Street, the intersection in downtown Schenectady. Years ago at lunch hour, thousands of people would pour out of the Alco locomotive factory and the booming General Electric plant and converge downtown to shop, get a haircut, grab lunch, or a shot in a beer.
Well, they worked there, and then they would shop here, too. You'd leave GE, and they had plenty of shops in downtown Schenectady. They had 3 major department stores, Carl's, Wallace's, Barney's, 3 big-time department stores. And the other little cities around didn't have what Schenectady had, so a lot of those workers at GE, and I might add, the American Locomotive Company had somewhere between 12 and 15,000 employees, too.
Marv Cermak has covered Schenectady for 3 newspapers, most recently the Times-Union. Years ago, he worked at the Gazette building on State Street in downtown Schenectady, where reporters and pressmen got out of work at 3 in the morning. They headed for this bar, called Henry's then, sometimes stayed till the sun came up. One night, 2 rookie cops closed the place for operating after hours.
Right. So the next day I mentioned to the police chief, I said, geez, I said, you know, this is the only place the folks have to go, and these few bars downtown when they get out of work, and these rookie cops want to close the place, and the next night the rookie cops didn't show up.
The power of the press?
I don't know what it was, frankly, I don't know.
There were so many people in downtown Schenectady years ago that there was a cop on every corner.
They used to have a cop during the rush hours. They had a cop on every corner in downtown Schenectady. Every traffic cop. There was no crime. We didn't have any crime in the 40s at the height of all this 40s and 50s and 60s. Right. There wasn't any crime. There was no drugs. I mean, you know, there was no shootings in the street and all this stuff that's going on. The big crime in Schenectady, was jaywalking. But they had a cop on every street corner. That's no exaggeration. A traffic cop at the peak hours when General Electric at noontime and the 5 o'clock rush and the morning rush hours. You'd have a cop on the corner of State and Erie, on the corner of State and Broadway, on the corner of State and Clinton, on the corner of State and Lafayette. You met people all the time. You met your neighbors. You met the people you went to high school with. It was the meeting place. I don't know what else I can say. It was the hub.
Rudnick's.
Linda Epstein Tolokonski's father founded this working man's clothing store 60 years ago on State Street in Schenectady. Like every shopkeeper we spoke to, Linda remembers the downtown days when service to the customer was all important.
You walked into a store years ago in a downtown, I'm not just Schenectady, but any downtown. I think people pride in, hi, how are you, can we help you? I think that was a key word, can we help you? Do you need assistance? Do you need, or can we direct you somewhere? We still ask people as they come in. We always say hello. You know, it's something, I guess, ingrained in our body. You don't find that. Find a salesperson at Macy's sometimes. Try to find a salesperson at Sears. My husband said you go to somewhere, it's like a Dick's, it's a pointer. You know, it's over there. Cashier charge. No, I mean, safari jackets, that was as common a jacket as we could get. A lot of them came here since my father opened it 60 years ago. And they talk about being little children and, you know, my goodness, I couldn't see over the counter when we first arrived here. And I got my first pair of jeans here.
Linda Tolokonski loved shopping during downtown Schenectady's golden age.
I think each block had its own character, each store had its own flavor. Grants, running through Grants. Grants was the best cut through from going from State Street to J Street, and especially in the cold winter. So you'd always go in there and go out the side door of Grants to get to J Street. You never go around. Woolworths was the best place. Everybody wanted to go to Woolworths for their hot dogs, and they had their big, long lunch counter. And until it closed, the lunch counter was still going. Right on the corner over here was Apex Music Store. And as a kid, I mean, the cat's meow was to go there, have enough money, because we used to have the 45s. In fact, I still have my collection of 45s, and, you know, sitting in our basement now. And, you know, they used to be on hooks. And then, but you could still listen to them in the back. You could put them on and in little booths and hear if you wanted to buy the song. But most of the time you knew what you were going to buy, because the bandstand, you were just like right down there to get whatever was going on bandstand. You had to get it. So that was our music. We had all our movie theaters. I mean, Proctor's, I can remember standing outside to see Elvis when Elvis Presley came out with his first movie. And we were all loaned out because they were going to give us photos. We had the Plaza Theater that's no longer there, that the MVP building still stands on. Gone with the Wind was first shown there when I was growing up. That I can remember crying, coming with all my friends, coming down the hill. We were all crying hysterically. There must have been 20 of us after we finally, for the first time, saw Gone with the Wind. So I think you start remembering places by what you did there. Barney's was, you know, you went in there and there wood floors that creaked as you went in because they were originally for the carriage trade. Carl Company had the best notion department. Anything you possibly wanted to find, you could find it in their notion department.
What's a notion?
The odds and ends, like the little zippers, the little buttons, the collar stays, things you don't even see them anymore. But it was, and they had the, I think everyone talks about Carl Company's luncheonette, having lunch there, and used to love to go there. And the notions department was right outside, and you can always find that one little thing you could find nowhere else was at Carl Company. And middle of the road was the Wallace Company right across the street, and they would be a little bit up, more in the upper scale of the three department stores. Every store had different products to sell you. They were never the same. It wasn't the same shirts. It wasn't the same dresses. It wasn't the same shoes. They had each their own lines, and they were all different.
This beach dress is an Indian print in bone and deep avocado. Wear it free swinging or belted with a bright red sash. If you're set for a seaside vacation, or if you simply like the looks of this easy-to-wear cotton, come to Carl's second floor fashion salon, where you'll find a cool, casual, comfortable silhouette perfect for the long, hot summer. Carl's open tonight until 9.
Based in Schenectady, Carl's department store survived into the 1980s. Their downtown location was next to Proctor's Theater, but Carl's also had stores in malls and shopping centers. Early on, Charles W. Carl realized that the automobile was bad news for downtown shopping.
Mr. Carl, what changes have you seen in the last 25 or 30 years that might be called major changes in both merchandising and, say, customers' habits?
One is the use of the automobile on the part of the consumer, the mobility of the consumer, going to shopping centers, branches, all over to do their shopping.
Although the Carl Company and other stores left downtown Schenectady, Rudnick survived. The bulk of its business today is in providing uniforms for fire and police departments and schools. It was sad to say goodbye to longtime retail customers as General Electric's workforce went elsewhere.
We said goodbye. I mean, we said goodbye to so many different people, customers. As all of a sudden the engineers started leaving, and their families, or the working people, and they were going elsewhere for jobs. I think that started to get us a little down. You know, they'd come in for their last time and say, geez, we won't be seeing you anymore. We're now moving to the Carolinas. We're now moving here, we're moving there. And then one store after another started closing. Barney's was the first to go. Wallace was the second. Carl's was around until, unfortunately, the Carl Company sold it to someone that I do believe just wanted to see it go. But people are starting to clamor for this type of, you know, old personal service coming back. Hopefully, maybe someday it'll happen in Schenectady. We were a great city. We'll probably return.
Jazz on Jay is a summer program that entertains Schenectadians on their lunch hour. The venue is a pedestrian thoroughfare lined with small shops. One of those shops, Graubart's Jewelry, was the oldest continuously operated store in downtown Schenectady until it closed in late 2002. Hershel Graubart remembers when Jay was a busy one-way street.
Lunch hour on Jay Street was fantastic. It was just jammed. The sidewalks were packed, especially when the American Locomotive Company let out for their lunch hour. You could not walk on Jay Street. You're taking your life in your hands when you cross the street because of the automobile traffic on Jay Street. And many years ago, before my time, there was two-way traffic on Jay Street, if you can imagine that. But the streets were packed all over downtown. People laughed and sang and had a good time while they were shopping. We knew our customers. They knew us by name, and we knew them by name.
You've had generations of people shopping here.
Oh, yes. Yes, we have. Well, we're in fourth generation. I know one family particularly. We're in their fourth generation. And it's fun. It's fun. They come in and they introduce the young people, say, George, I bought my engagement ring from his father. Now he wants to take care of you now. And that's the way it used to be.
I mean, over the years, I mean, you had offers. You could have gone to a mall.
We had an offer, one particularly, the Aviation Mall. They wanted to give us a year's rent free. We moved up there.
Why didn't you?
We would lose the personal touch.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown.
The Wedgewood Barbershop is a 90-year-old institution in downtown Schenectady. Richard DiCristofaro has been a barber there for 40 years.
Barbers, beauticians, bartenders, and taxi cab drivers seem to be all street-educated psychologists, because you have to listen to everybody's problems and make them feel better and try to let them know that you're a good ear that could be a good listener for them, and hopefully make them feel a little better about their plight regardless of what it might be. A kind word just goes a long way. We hear about all the divorces, all the affairs, all the cheating, all the politics. In the old days, the barbershop was known to be the hub of the local news, whether it be news or scandal or whatever.
Politics, a frequent barbershop topic, was part and parcel of the old days downtown. Former President Harry Truman talked about giving him hell during a downtown campaign visit on behalf of New York Governor Averell Harriman.
I never did give anybody hell, as I said here a while ago. On these Republicans, I just tell the truth, and they think it's hell.
Oh my God, the barbershop was the oasis for everything, from gossip, current events, politics, and religion, but we didn't talk politics or religion as operators. That's taboo.
Richard DiCristofaro is one of the few barbers who regularly does facial shaves. When we visited the Wedgeway, he demonstrated his technique to the media, both print and electronic. It was his moment in the spotlight. 15 minutes of fame for him and his customer, James Terravali.
I had a barber working for me one time who was from the old school, and the customers were talking to him one time while he was giving a shave, and they asked him, what was the worst you ever cut a person? And he said, well, I killed a guy once. And everybody said, what? You killed a guy once? He said, yeah, I was shaving a drunk, and all of a sudden his arms come flying around. He hits my arm, and the blade goes into his throat. And we had to call the ambulance and get him up you go, Jim. We had to call the ambulance and get him out of the barbershop, and he eventually died in a hospital. I don't know if he died from bleeding to death or from what, but he did die. So I kind of take the credit for killing him. But he shouldn't have been drunk when he sat in the chair.
Richard DiCristofaro is living proof that a good barber can be a good psychologist and a great storyteller.
Downtown was sort of like a public meeting place before the invention of soap operas or daytime television or Oprah Winfrey. I can remember my mother using the excuse that she had to go downtown and do some shopping, even though she couldn't afford it. To do the shopping, she used to love to get on a bus at the corner and come to downtown Schenectady and meet old friends and acquaintances and just gossip with the clerks she's become familiar with over the years, because the clerks were just that. They were elderly, older people in the sense they had longevity on their jobs. They were not turned over and changed so much. They became somewhat friends, and you look forward to seeing them and talking with them. And my mother did that 2 or 3 times a week. She just loved it. And to meet at the local lunch counters like Barney's and Carl Company and Wallace Company, they all had lunch counters. So they'd rotate going to various lunch counters for maybe a hot dog or melted cheese sandwich or whatnot. Basically, it was to communicate and talk with your friends that you'd meet on a regular basis in downtown, as well as various other businesses, like Planer's Peanut Store comes to mind, with a woman that worked in there for at least 45 or 50 years, I guess. Everybody in downtown knew her, never knew what she did outside of Planer's Peanut Store, maybe, but she was an institution in herself, her and the peanut man outside the store. You just love to go in there and get a bag of peanuts just to smell the nice aroma of the roasted peanuts being roasted on premises. It was a phenomenal thing.
The peanut store on State Street is gone, along with all those great lunch counters. But there are signs of renewal in downtown Schenectady. The Metroplex project is a multi-million-dollar effort to improve Schenectady County with an emphasis on revitalizing downtown. State offices have been constructed at the site of the former Gazette building. MVP, a health maintenance organization, has new headquarters on the site of the famous Plaza Theater. And an old hotel next to Proctor's has been renovated. Downtown survivors like the Wedgewood Barber Shop continue to thrive.
My outlook for downtown is very, very optimistic. I am thrilled, almost to the point of glee, with the things that are happening downtown. I pronounce James finished.
Downtown, you're